I'm Samantha Anderson, Director of Communications for Newton Public Schools, and I'm here with Superintendent Van Rankin, and we're here for a quick recap of last night's Board of Education meeting. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section. The major item of discussion for last night's Board of Education meeting was the recognition system at Newton High School. Can you just kind of go over what was discussed and what was finally decided?
Well, for those that watched last month, Mr. Smith at the June 28th meeting went over a presentation about discussions they've had to try to have the board involved in a conversation what we should do with the academic recognition program. Over the past several years, there's been the possibility of proposed changes and so on and so forth, but no real decisions had been made or official votes taken by the board. And so Mr. Smith was just trying to get some input from them in that direction. It's a pretty complicated or complex situation when you start looking at, because you've got like two different things in play. You've got the cum laude system, and then you've got your weighted grades, which when you start looking at how that can all kind of play out a little bit, there was a lot of discussion. If you get a chance to participate or to look over those two board meeting Facebook live post, it is a pretty interesting conversation. The one thing to keep in mind is there's no right or wrong answers, in my opinion, with any of this. They're just, we want to have a decision made that allows us to recognize students. One of the points that was made last night was we really need to establish, the board needs to establish, what is the goal of this recognition program? Is it to solely recognize academic performance, or is it to recognize academic performance and also those that are well-rounded students? And I think essentially the board settled on consensus. From a consensus perspective, for the most part, I believe that it's going to be an academic focus on mainly recognizing those students that perform well in the core content areas from that academic perspective. So there's going to be a committee that's going to be formed this next year that's going to look at that, and it's going to be a static committee over time, rather than relying on school leadership for example, at the building level. There's going to be a board member on that. There's going to be some district office representation, as well as obviously office administration from the high school, and then staff and student leadership. So to get varied input into what changes should be made. One thing that I think was pretty clear, we want to make sure that we have a real solid process for determining what classes should count like towards weighted grades. Is it going to be only AP? Is it going to be honors and AP? Are we going to look at other courses of action, like look at pre-AP? Because what you want to get away from is creating an honors section of everything. Because you have honors basket weaving, for example. Not that basket weaving isn't a difficult course, but if we're looking to recognize really academic in the core areas, that probably doesn't fit. And once again, people are going to disagree with that. There just needs to be some consistency on how this is being done, so that we don't hurt any feelings, and frankly, so that kids know what games they have to play in order to receive the recognition levels that they want to as it relates to that. So we'll look to try to have some sort of a report back from that group in November or December to the Board of Education, so that this board can make a determination about what, if any, changes that should take place. Another thing to kind of point out as it relates to that, I think it was also the consensus of the board, and I feel strongly that way as well, that any changes that would be made need to be done gradually over time and rolled out, so that those students that are currently under any system, they are evaluated during or over their 4 years of high school with that. In other words, we don't change the rules during the course of the time they're in school. So any changes that would be made, which there are not going to be any between or for this school year, so any changes that would be made to the cum laude system would take place in the fall of 2022. So we had Mr. Nathan Dick, who is a former gifted teacher here that actually helped us out this past year as well in that area, that was instrumental in helping determine or set this up. So, and that also took place over several different years. So really good discussion. If you get a chance, check it out on Facebook. They'll do a better job than I am about describing all of this.
All right. And just so people know, it's summer, but there's still a lot going on. Right now, actually, we have our help hours at the district office. Can you just let us know maybe when those are, and then just what parents can expect to get help with?
Yeah, if you're having trouble figuring out what the enrollment forms are and things of that nature, or you want some assistance of any sort, or we have the center here open at McKinley on Tuesday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. So they'll be here until 7 tonight. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. and then Thursday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. And they'll give you any sort of assistance in terms of filling out the enrollment forms. Also, the household economic survey, which, if you remember from past broadcasts, was the former free and reduced lunch forms. We've got to do those a little bit differently. We have translators available here to assist, and our office staff is here as well. So if you're having difficulty with the enrollment process, come on down. I just left the hallway there a little while ago. They've got quite a few people coming in spurts. But that they're here to serve you. So we really want you to come down if you want some assistance in filling out those enrollment forms over the next few days. Later on this month, we also have One Stop, which I think is the 27th of July, I think, Sam, at Chisholm. But that'll be another place where enrollment where students can enroll that are new to the district as well. So I think it's the 27th.
It is the 27th from 7:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. So
yeah, so that's taking place there at Chisholm.
And we've had a couple questions about what if I don't have, the health assessment, or what if I don't have all these things, and they think it's better to go and just go and get what you can done and then finish the rest later, because it'll make a lot more sense. It'll be a lot easier if you're going, especially if it's your first time and going to talk to people. So just if you're new to the district, make sure you go. You'll get a lot of your questions answered. Just one other thing to think about, we do have our classified job fairs, so jobs like paraeducators, food service workers, maintenance workers, and that's July 31st from 3 to 5, and that's going to be at Newton High School. The first one was actually at the district office, so that is different. And they'll even have drive the bus, and the cool thing about this year's, we didn't have it last year, but then the year before we did, but one thing that's different is that you can actually apply ahead of time and just do your interview at the job fair. So if that's something you'd be interested in, if you want to get things going, it's a great opportunity for you to do that. And I think that's everything. I'm going to make sure there's no other questions, but while I do that, do you have anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Van Rankin?
I do not. Really, we a lot of things, as Sam mentioned, going on. Building principals actually report next week. So before you know it, folks, it's going to be time for school. As I walked down the hall, the few times that I did this afternoon, I asked students if they were ready for school, and they actually said yes. So that's very exciting. We're ready to get kids back on campus.
I got to go to some of the summer programming, and they were building it could be whatever they want. It could be a box, it could be a parachute, it could be all the combinations to protect an egg if it drops from up high. So that was so fun to see. And I could not get over just the inventions they made. It was pretty neat to watch. And we'll have more information about all those opportunities that the kids had over the summer in our newsletters in the future. But anyway, thank you all for watching. If you have any questions afterwards, you can just email info@usd373.org. And thank you so much for being here, Mr. Van Rankin. And I hope everybody has a great week.
Take care, folks.